He voted to confirm her, and now he's calling for her to be fired. John Fetterman just broke ranks and called Kristi Noem's leadership gross incompetence after Americans were killed.
Lead source tonight is one of the 7 Democrats who voted to confirm Kristi Noem, but is now calling for her to go. Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman joins me now, and thank you, Senator, for being here. Why do you believe that Secretary Noem should be fired?
Well, I mean, for multiple reasons right now. I voted for her because I'm on the Homeland Security, and I'm also the ranking member on the Border Security Subcommittee. So I hope to have a relationship and work together because we would believe in securing our border and deporting the criminals and having an ongoing dialogue. That's the way things work in Washington, D.C. And clearly, the way things continue to deteriorate, and now actually what happened in Minneapolis, it's been very clear. They've created a dangerous and ungovernable situation that made civilians, law enforcement, and agents unsafe, and created now and resulted in now 2 deaths of American citizens at this point.
If President Trump doesn't fire her, would you support those efforts that are underway to impeach her and remove her?
I mean, you can impeach a ham sandwich. That's not going to go anywhere where there won't be any votes. The same thing happened with Mayorkas. Again, I thought he was incompetent, and then I think he should have been fired. Honestly, for us. But now, whether you impeach or not, there won't be a votes, and it's just going to be more of a statement. I think, calling the president to fire her, that's about as strong as it probably gets. I don't think it's necessarily illegal, but it's just incompetence, gross incompetence, whether we had what I believe with Mayorkas, again, what happens went out with Noem.
If she stays on as the Homeland Security Secretary and given your role on those committees, what's your concern about the future of DHS?
I'm sorry, what?
If she stays on as the secretary, if Kristi Noem does, what's your concern about her leadership at DHS?
Well, yes, of course. Of course, there's an ongoing concern, and then this is what I've said in my tweet to the president. It's like, it's trashing your legacy. As a Democrat, that I believe in immigration. I believe we deserve a secure border. I believe we should deport all of the criminals in our nation. What I don't believe is we should be targeting otherwise hardworking immigrants. I don't support those things. So for me, that's what was a breakdown in Minneapolis. They weren't deporting all the criminals, certainly wasn't making our border any more secure, and it turned into like an out of control situation. And it's getting increasingly more and more deadly and chaotic.
Do you think the federal agents should all leave Minneapolis?
I do think you need a reset at this point. I don't think at this point anything more productive can continue, because you can't control it, you can't govern it, and so why would you at this point maintain and push such a very bad situation? I think there needs an effective reset and work with local officials. And now figure out, does it really make any sense at this point? And now, given the tragedy of what's happened here.
With Secretary Noem, what she said was not that different than what we also heard from the FBI director or from Stephen Miller, or, he said that he was an assassin, something that the vice president also retweeted. Do you believe the president should take action beyond just Kristi Noem when it comes to his senior staff?
We had a technical issue. I did not see that question. I didn't hear it. What?
Kristi Noem called Alex Preddy a domestic terrorist. Those are similar sentiments to what we saw, from Stephen Miller and others.
Yeah. He was not a terrorist or anything. That's absurd. And that's the kind of rhetoric and the way she's behaved, after that tragedy. That's one of the reasons why I think it's entirely appropriate. She should be fired for those things. She's lost the confidence. And I think if there's more Republicans being honest, they would agree with me on this. I know there's plenty of Democrats, with Mayorkas, he was incompetent and he really should go, but they were afraid to really speak out. So when someone's unable and they have failed, they should be removed at this point. And I warned that it would cost us the election because the border was a failure. So degrading the Trump's legacy with about securing our border, one of the things that he won and what he has made a priority in his administration.
There's a fight here in Washington when it comes to funding ICE and the DHS funding bill. I know you said you don't want to shut the government down over this. You do want changes made to how ICE operates. How do you force those changes without holding up this funding bill?
Well, I mean, I want everybody to know that vote will not have any impact on the funding for ICE at this point. They've had many billions available after the big, beautiful bill. They have all of the necessary funding to operate for a while. And that big, beautiful bill, I did not vote for that. Not a single Democrat in DC voted for those things. So for now, I do hope they're able to unbundle all those bills, and virtually everyone would quickly pass 5 of them, and it's all going to come down to that one bill. But it seemed more and more unlikely that that's going to happen. And now, so for me, do we really want to stop paying our military two times in 2 months at this point? So I would remind everybody that does not defund ICE. And for me, as a Democrat, I absolutely reject to abolish or defund ICE. ICE is necessary, but it needs to make some changes at this point. So that's here we are. So shutting the government down and punishing and not paying the military and all of the other critical parts of our government will now shut down. If this is shut down, it is not going to defund or do anything ICE, because there's billions and billions after the big, beautiful bill.
Yeah, Democrats have said they want to tie it to changes they want to see at ICE, which you said you want to see as well. Can I ask you, in 2016, when you were the lieutenant governor, you said that you believe sanctuary cities make everybody safer. Given that has been the administration's argument against what's happening in Minneapolis, do you still agree with that tonight? Is that still your position, that sanctuary cities make people safer?
I think at that time the dynamic has changed much differently, and the border has become more and more increasingly more difficult. So for me now, I think it's entirely appropriate to make the adjustments, and I do think at this point we should be turning over all the criminals that are in custody in all these jurisdictions.
Does that, I mean, for Minneapolis, obviously you're the senator from Pennsylvania, but in Minnesota, Jacob Frey, the mayor, says he doesn't believe that they should cooperate with those federal enforcement laws. So you do believe that they should be cooperating more with the Trump administration?
What I do believe is that if there are law enforcement that have these people in custody that are behaving in criminal behavior, then yes, they should cooperate with that, and those individuals, if they're convicted, should be deported.
And so your stance on sanctuary cities has changed then, is that right, Senator?
I think it's evolved because the dynamics and the circumstances, with respects to our border has.
Senator John Fetterman, thank you for joining us tonight. I always appreciate having you on the show, and thanks for your time.
What makes this moment so powerful isn't just what Senator John Fetterman said, it's who he is and what he represents. Fetterman isn't some reflexive partisan critic. He voted to confirm Kristi Noem. He serves on Homeland Security. He's the ranking member on the Border Security Subcommittee. In other words, he wanted this relationship to work. He believed there could be common ground on border security, deporting criminals and keeping communities safe. That's why his words now carry so much weight. Because when someone who gave you the benefit of the doubt turns around and says your leadership has become dangerous, that's not politics, that's an indictment. Fetterman was blunt. What's happening under Noem's leadership has created a chaotic, ungovernable situation, and it has already cost American lives. 2 U.S. citizens are dead. Civilians are unsafe. Local law enforcement is strained. Federal agents are operating without clear coordination or accountability. That's not border security. That's a breakdown of governance. And Fetterman made something else very clear. This isn't about abolishing ICE or pretending border enforcement doesn't matter. He rejected that outright. He believes in a secure border. He believes criminals should be deported. What he rejects is targeting hardworking immigrants who are not threats and using reckless tactics that escalate violence instead of preventing it. That distinction matters. Democrats are often caricatured as being soft on border security, but Fetterman's position reflects what most Democratic voters actually believe. Enforcement must exist, but it must be competent, lawful, and humane. When enforcement turns chaotic and deadly, it stops being enforcement and becomes failure. The Minneapolis tragedy is the turning point here. According to Fetterman, ICE operations there weren't removing criminals or making communities safer. They spiraled out of control. And instead of accountability, what followed was inflammatory rhetoric. Kristi Noem labeled Alex Prey a domestic terrorist, a claim with no factual basis. Others in the administration amplified it. That kind of language doesn't calm situations, it pours gasoline on them. Fetterman called it absurd, and he's right. Words from people in power matter, especially after someone has been killed. When leaders smear victims instead of taking responsibility, they lose public trust, and Fetterman said plainly that Noem has lost his. That's why he didn't mince words. She should be fired. He was also realistic about impeachment. He acknowledged what many Democrats privately know. Impeachment without votes is largely symbolic. The real accountability here, he argued, is the president acting to remove someone who has clearly failed at their job. This wasn't about legality, it was about competence, or rather, the lack of it. And then there's the broader Democratic tension that Fetterman didn't shy away from. He acknowledged that his views on sanctuary cities have evolved, not because he abandoned Democratic values, but because circumstances changed. He now believes jurisdictions should cooperate in turning over convicted criminals. That's not a betrayal of immigrant communities. It's a recognition that public safety and humane immigration policy are not mutually exclusive. What Democrats like Fetterman are saying is this: you can enforce the law without turning cities into war zones. You can secure the border without demonizing immigrants, and you can fund ICE while still demanding reforms that prevent abuse and chaos. That's the adult conversation the country needs, and it's exactly what this administration seems incapable of having. Fetterman warned that continuing down this path doesn't just endanger lives, it damages the credibility of immigration enforcement itself. When leadership fails this badly, it undermines the very goals it claims to care about. This moment matters because it shows Democrats holding power accountable from a place of seriousness, not slogans. It shows that criticism isn't coming from the fringe, it's coming from inside the system, from people who wanted things to work and now see they're not. If you believe border security should be real, not reckless, if you believe leadership should protect lives instead of escalating chaos, and if you believe accountability should apply even when it's uncomfortable, share this video, subscribe to Blue Lens Politics, and stay engaged. Because democracy only functions when failure is called out, even by those who once offered their support.